My name is Commander Evelyn Ellis, and the morning my husband tried to have me arrested for kidnapping my own baby, I was wearing my dress, white uniform. I remember the sunlight flashing across the metals on my chest. I remember my daughter sleeping against me in a pale blue blanket. And I remember seeing my husband, Daniel, running beside the car with his mother behind him, both of them pounding on the window and screaming for the driver to stop. Daniel looked terrified. But he was not afraid of losing our daughter. He was afraid of what I had found inside her medical file. 3 weeks earlier, I had believed I was living a good life. Daniel and I had been married for 6 years. We owned a comfortable house outside Annapolis, Maryland. He managed his family's private medical clinic, while I served at a nearby naval command. Our daughter, Lily, was 4 months old. She had Daniel's dark hair and my green eyes. After years of deployments, long nights, and 2 painful miscarriages, she felt like the answer to every prayer I had whispered when nobody could hear me. Daniel's mother, Margaret, had moved into our guest room after Lily was born. She said she wanted to help while I returned to duty. At first, I was grateful. Then small things began to feel wrong. Margaret would enter the nursery without knocking. She changed Lily's clothes, even after I had dressed her. She corrected the way I held my own child. Whenever Lily cried in my arms, Margaret would reach for her and say, "She knows who makes her feel safe." Daniel always defended his mother. "She's only trying to help," he would tell me. "You give orders all day, Evelyn. At home, you need to relax." I tried. I truly did. Then one Tuesday morning, I received a call from Lily's pediatrician. The nurse said Lily had missed a follow-up blood test. That made no sense. Daniel had taken her to the appointment himself. When I asked him about it that evening, he barely looked up from his phone. "The doctor said it wasn't necessary," he replied. The next day, I called the clinic again. This time, I spoke directly to the pediatrician. She told me no one had brought Lily to the scheduled appointment. When I checked our insurance account, I found something stranger. A laboratory had billed for a genetic test under Lily's name. The test had been ordered through Daniel's family clinic, not through her pediatrician. Daniel had never mentioned it. That night, after he fell asleep, I opened the home office safe. We kept passports, property documents, and insurance records inside. Under a stack of tax papers, I found a sealed envelope addressed to Margaret. Inside was a DNA report. The names on it were Daniel Hayes, Lily Ellis Hayes, and a woman named Claire Bennett. The report said Daniel had a 99.99% probability of being Lily's biological father. Claire Bennett had a 99.97% probability of being Lily's biological mother. I read the page 3 times. Then I walked into the nursery and stared at the baby sleeping in the crib. My first thought was impossible. I had carried Lily. I had felt her kick beneath my heart. I had spent 18 hours in labor before an emergency surgery. I had the scar across my body and the hospital photographs on my phone. Claire Bennett could not be Lily's mother, unless the child I had brought home was not the child I had delivered. I wanted to wake Daniel and demand an explanation. Military training stopped me. When something looks impossible, you do not attack it with emotion. You secure the facts. I photographed every page. Then I put the envelope back exactly where I had found it. The next morning, I searched for Claire. She had worked as a nurse at the private maternity center where Lily was born. 6 months before my delivery, she had also started working part-time at Daniel's clinic. Her social media page showed something Daniel had carefully hidden from me. Photographs of them together. Some were taken at restaurants while I was deployed. One showed Daniel's hand resting on her pregnant stomach. The date was 2 months before Lily's birth. I felt as if the floor had disappeared beneath me. Daniel had not simply cheated. He and Claire had been expecting a child at the same time I was pregnant. I contacted my friend Rachel Kim, a civilian attorney and former Navy legal officer. I told her only that I believed someone had altered my daughter's medical records. Rachel did not ask me to explain over the phone. She told me to bring Lily to an independent hospital and request a legally documented DNA test. I did it that afternoon. For 4 days, I smiled across the dinner table while Daniel lied to my face. Margaret hummed over Lily's crib as if she owned the child. Every hour felt like standing beside a bomb and pretending I could not hear it ticking. The results arrived on Saturday morning. Lily was not biologically related to me. I sat in my car outside the hospital and cried until I could hardly breathe. My grief was not because Lily felt less like my daughter. She was mine in every way that mattered. I had fed her at 2 a.m. I knew every sound she made. I loved her before I had ever seen her face. But somewhere, another baby carried my blood, and I did not know where she was. Rachel helped me contact a detective in the state police medical fraud unit. His name was Marcus Reed. After reviewing the records, he obtained a court order to preserve hospital video, electronic charts, and newborn identification logs. The truth appeared piece by piece. Claire had delivered a healthy girl 7 hours before my emergency surgery. My daughter was born later that evening. Both babies spent several hours in the nursery for observation. The next morning, the electronic identification system went offline for 11 minutes. During those 11 minutes, surveillance video showed Margaret entering through an employee corridor. Daniel followed her. Claire was already inside the nursery. They switched the identification bands. They gave me Claire's baby and took mine. I could not understand why until Detective Reed uncovered the rest. Claire's wealthy father had threatened to remove her from his will if she had a child with a married man. Daniel wanted access to the family money. Margaret wanted to protect her son's reputation and his clinic. Their plan was cruel, but simple. Claire would raise my biological daughter as if the child had been born through a private surrogate. I would unknowingly raise Claire's daughter inside Daniel's marriage. Daniel could remain publicly respectable while secretly controlling both families. But Claire's father had recently become suspicious. He demanded a DNA test before placing money into a trust for the baby. That was why Daniel had ordered the secret test on Lily. The result proved Lily was Claire's child. It also created evidence of the switch. Daniel and Margaret were preparing to run. Detective Reed wanted a few more days to locate Claire and my biological daughter. Rachel warned me not to confront anyone. I agreed, though every part of me wanted to tear the truth from Daniel with my bare hands. Then, on Monday evening, I heard Margaret speaking in the kitchen. She thought I was upstairs. Thursday morning, she whispered into her phone. "Once Evelyn leaves for the ceremony, we'll take the baby. Daniel has already filed the report. By the time she understands, we'll be across the state line." I stood motionless in the hallway. The ceremony she mentioned was my promotion. I was scheduled to appear in dress whites at 8 o'clock, Thursday morning. Daniel had filed a false statement, claiming I was suffering from severe emotional problems after childbirth. He planned to use it to argue that I was a danger to Lily. Margaret would tell police she had seen me become unstable. They intended to take Lily, disappear with Claire, and leave me fighting a lie while both children vanished. This time, I did not cry. I went upstairs, kissed Lily's forehead, and called Detective Reed. We changed the plan. Thursday morning arrived bright and clear. I dressed in my white uniform and pinned every medal into place. Daniel watched from the bedroom doorway. "You look beautiful," he said. I met his eyes in the mirror. "You should take a good look," I replied. Today is the last day you will ever see me the way you remember me." He frowned, but before he could ask what I meant, Margaret called from downstairs. A government sedan waited outside. I carried Lily toward it, pretending I had decided to bring her to the ceremony. Margaret rushed onto the porch. "You can't take that baby with you," she snapped. "Why not?" I asked. Her face changed. For 1 second, I saw the panic beneath her confidence. Daniel came running out behind her. "Evelyn, give Lily to Mom. You're not thinking clearly." I climbed into the back seat and locked the door. That was when they began shouting. Daniel pounded the glass. Margaret screamed that I was kidnapping their baby. Neighbors came outside. Daniel called 911 and told the operator that his unstable wife had taken a child who did not belong to her. He did not know the call was exactly what Detective Reed needed. The sedan moved slowly toward the end of the street. Daniel and Margaret followed until 2 unmarked police vehicles blocked them. I watched through the rear window as detectives stepped out. Daniel tried to run. He made it across one lawn before an officer brought him to the ground. Margaret kept screaming until Detective Reed placed her in handcuffs. Her red dress stood out against the green grass like a warning flag. I thought I would feel victorious. Instead, I held Lily close and whispered, "It's almost over." But it was not over. Claire had disappeared. Investigators traced her car to a small airport in Virginia. She had purchased 2 tickets under false names. Police reached the gate minutes before boarding. When they arrested her, she was carrying my biological daughter. Her name was recorded as Sophie Bennett. She was 4 months old. She had my eyes. The reunion did not happen like it does in movies. There was no instant music, no perfect feeling, no easy ending. Sophie cried when I held her because I was a stranger. Lily cried when a social worker carried her across the room toward Claire's parents. My heart broke in 2 directions. The court placed both babies with a specially approved foster family for 12 days, while DNA tests, birth records, and custody petitions were reviewed. Those 12 days were the longest of my life. I visited every day. I sat between 2 cribs and told both girls stories. I sang the same song to Sophie that I had sung to Lily. Slowly, Sophie learned the sound of my voice. Lily still reached for me whenever I entered the room. Then came the twist no one expected. Claire agreed to cooperate with prosecutors. She confessed that Daniel and Margaret had planned the switch before either child was born. But she also admitted that, after 4 months, she had become afraid of them. Daniel controlled her money, her phone, and every visit with Sophie. She claimed she had been trying to leave with both babies when police found her. I did not forgive her. She had entered that nursery willingly. She had watched another woman take home the wrong child. But her testimony gave prosecutors what they needed. Daniel pleaded guilty to conspiracy, kidnapping, medical record fraud, and obstruction of justice. He lost his clinic, his license, and his freedom. Margaret went to trial. The jury watched the nursery video in silence. They convicted her on every major charge. Claire received a reduced sentence for cooperating, but her parental rights were suspended pending a separate hearing. The civil court then faced a question no rulebook could answer easily. Biology, said Sophie, was mine. Biology, said Lily, was Claire's. But love had already built a family the criminals never planned for. Claire's father and mother wanted Lily. I wanted Sophie. Yet none of us wanted the girls to lose the only bonds they knew. So I proposed something different. I asked for permanent custody of Sophie and temporary guardianship of Lily, while Claire served her sentence and completed treatment. Claire's parents agreed to become Lily's legal guardians. We created a schedule that kept the babies together several days each week. It was not simple. It was not traditional. But it protected 2 innocent children from paying for the choices of adults. 1 year later, I stood outside the courthouse holding Sophie on one hip and Lily's hand in mine. Rachel walked beside us carrying a folder that contained the final custody order. Reporters waited near the steps. One asked whether sending Daniel and Margaret to prison had given me the revenge I wanted. I looked down at the 2 little girls. Revenge would have meant destroying them, the way they tried to destroy me. I said, justice means my daughters get to grow up knowing the truth without being poisoned by it. I eventually sold the house where Daniel and I had lived. I gave every dollar I won in the civil case to a foundation that helps families affected by hospital identification failures and parental kidnapping. I also kept my promotion. People sometimes ask which girl is really mine. I tell them Sophie is the daughter born from my body, and Lily is the daughter born inside my heart. Neither bond erases the other. Daniel believed he could replace one baby with another, and that I would never notice. He believed motherhood was a medical record, a blood result, or a name printed on a plastic band. He was wrong. A lie may change the name on a birth certificate. It may even steal years from a family. But it cannot decide who we love, and it cannot survive forever when a mother refuses to look away. They tried to take my child, my career, and my sanity. In the end, they lost their freedom, and I brought both of my daughters home.